Okay, so now that we have the data loaded into Ninja and Ninja actually calculated the NBIs, we can start exploring the interface. So the first tab is the summary table, and this, if you have a large database, can actually take just a few seconds to load. But what this is a summary of the calculated NBIs. So you'll see that in the columns, it's ordered by the different replicates or the treatments that you provided. So again, remember I told you if in column B you have the same name or descriptor for multiple samples, it'll calculate the mean or the average, and then you see it also calculates a standard deviation. If you decided to give your replicates unique identifiers, as I did with maze rotation 1, maze rotation 2, maze rotation 3, it'll give you a mean index, or sorry, just a single index value for each one of these separate replicates. Of course, it won't calculate the standard deviation because there was no average calculated. All right, and then I also mentioned it provides some basic stats, so it actually does do an ANOVA analysis comparing the means, but it's not something that I recommend using in Ninja, simply because it's more powerful to rather export the data and then use that in another program, for example, using R software, Statistica, SPSS, and so forth. Right, so this is just a summary table. I'm going to show you now already how to export the summary data. So the easiest way for me is simply to click in the top left corner and highlight. So drag and highlight all the way to the bottom. Make sure all the columns and all the rows are highlighted. You right click on it and you say copy. And then you can open up Excel. And you simply click right and say paste. You can paste, well, either keep source formatting or match destination formatting. It's usually easier for me to match destination formatting. Right, and there's your data exported into Excel. Right, and of course from here you can then load that into other software to continue your statistical analysis. Right, so let's get back to the main interface of Ninja. Right, so that was the summary data. Then we have the second tab, or the third tab actually, is the feeding types. Also the colonizer persister and BP values. I'm just giving it a moment to load. All right, so here is basically a summary of the CP and BP classes, also the trophic groups, the feeding types, and then the biomass for each one of those taxons that were used. All right, when we go down, you can actually see here is basically graphs showing the distribution of feeding types. I'm not going to go into depth of all of them, but it differentiates between only considering the free-living nematodes or only the herbivores, and then also considering the total number of nematodes. Right, and here's the distribution of CP values, and then also life strategy structure, specifically of the herbivore nematode community or assemblage. Okay, so that's feeding types. The fourth tab is maturity index family indices. Let's give it another moment to load. By the way, at the top here you can always see some references. That's nice that you can go and have a look at to further explain the indices that is relevant to this particular tab. Here's the maturity index plotted as box plots. Then we also have maturity index 2 to 5, the sigma maturity index, the plant parasitic index. So to have a better idea of what these indices actually mean, again, go and read the literature, the citations here at the top, but also the chapter information that you've been provided. At the bottom you can see the CP triangle. Okay, then we have food web diagnostics. So this is basically going to be the faunal analysis. But first we have the basal index and the channel index. All right, we go down, we have the food web analysis. This is the interpretation or basic sketch aligned interpretation, and then these are the actual plots. So something that's worth noting with faunal analysis when we get to this graph is even though you had multiple replicates with the same name, and even though they were averaged under your summary tab, in the actual faunal analysis, the individual samples will be plotted. So, for example, cover crop rotation, you'll remember from the summary tab, it was averaged to a single value. Here it's indicated by a circle, but now you can actually see 3 separate plots. All right, so just take note of that. They will plot separately. But then again, maze rotation 1, 2, 3, because I gave them unique identifiers, Ninja recognized them as different samples and gave them each a unique symbol. So that's just something to remember as well. All right, let's continue to metabolic footprints. Now, again, go and look at the literature, go and look at the chapter to have a better understanding of what metabolic footprints are. What is different from a metabolic footprints graph is, as you will know or recognize, is that it's actually plotted on also the faunal analysis graph. But what's different here is that in this case, it actually does use that average value and not the 3 individual plots, as with the full analysis in the previous tab. So there you have the average value of the cover crop rotation, but then indicated by this rhombus shape, or this almost this diamond shape, is the metabolic footprints. Okay, the last tab, I'm not going to go into that tab or explore it. It's basically a compost analysis, so if you were doing work on compost maturity, then you would consider using that tab. All right, I'm just going to head back to the previous one. I just want to show you really quick how easy it actually is to export some of the data. So, well, not the data, actually the graph. So you right click on the graph, and you can simply say save image as, or you can even copy it. As I said, very, very simple way to export the images. So when we say copy image, you can go back to Excel and you can just right click and say paste. Sorry, didn't work. There we go, paste. Okay, so that was a very simple way of exporting the figure. And as I said, I showed you, you can also hit this save image as button. You can find a place where you want to save it on your desktop. You can name it whatever you want and you hit the save button. Right, so that's basically what there is to know about the Ninja tool with regards to the course that you guys are taking. But you know, if there's any additional information that you would like, you're welcome to reach out. And I do want to acknowledge the people that are really behind Ninja. So it's worth going and read this paper. Howard Ferris, Ron Nahuda, and Shirbinikov, who actually published this paper on Ninja, which is the online interface. And then also acknowledge Howard Ferris, again Ron Nahuda, and also Sarah Sanchez Marino, who's currently still very much involved in the upkeep and maintenance of this online website. So we thank them for what they're doing, because truly it's very valuable to us. All right, thanks everyone.